Sangye Chodan Soke Chonam Chanchu Patu Dani Japsuchi Taki Chushe Gibe Sonam Ki Prola Penje Sangye Dubash Sangye Chodan Soke Chonam Chanchu Patu Dani Japsuchi Taki Chushe Gibe Sonam Ki Prola Penje Sangye Dubash Sangye Chodan Soke Chonam Chanchu Patu Dani Japsuchi Taki Chushe Gibe Sonam Ki Prola Penje Sangye Dubash Ye Tuje Ni Songye Dawa Tumbe Gongbe Se Tabe Chune Tenje Bi Kodam De La Cha So So, during the starting with today, during this weekend, we will be going to this particular text. The short or brief stages of the path composed by one of the great Tibetan master, Lama Tsongkhapa. Who is the founder of the Gelug lineage. And so he composed the great Lam Rim and then there's a middling Lam Rim, the stages to the path of enlightenment, and then there is this most brief and shortest, which is short in words, in terms of verses, but which explain the whole path, stage by stage, from the very beginning. How to achieve our highest potential, the fully awakened or fully enlightened state, so that we can be the source of the greatest and the highest benefit to each and every sentient beings. How to achieve the ultimate happiness. So he explained the complete path, and not only the complete path, stage by stage, in gradual, progressive stages of the path, in unmistaken. So with that, it gives us some kind of the road map of our spiritual journey or path. it gives us some ideas about how to progress in our path. And so all the Buddha's teachings of 84,000 of the volume of Buddha's teachings, if we kind of condense, then of course in contents in that the stages of path to the enlightenment. So it summarizes all those teachings. Is summarized in the all the teaching that explained here in the path. And it is also called the line of experiential path, and is Lama Tsongkhapa writing with his own experience. So it's his experience, his expression of his experience that is written in that words. So, so all the Buddha's teaching can be explained in terms of the base, the foundations, the basis of true truth, and the path. On the basis of that foundations, of that basis, then there is two paths, the path of wisdom and method. And on the basis of that two paths, then there is the result of achieving the Dharmakaya and Rupakaya. So the Dharmakaya means the enlightened wisdom mind, and in this case, and Rupakaya, the enlightened form that is manifested in order to guide and lead the sentient beings from the samsara and the delusions and to their highest potential, the fully enlightened state. And so here explaining the path in more details. In terms of course, it will come cultivating the awakening mind of the Bodhisattva, induced by the great compassion and loving kindness, and having cultivated that effortless, genuine awakening mind of loving, awakening the mind of Bodhisattva, then engaging into the practice of the Bodhisattva practices of such as the six perfections, and having engaged in the practice of six perfections, through 5 path and 10 bhumi, then one actualize our greatest potential, the fully enlightened state fully awakened state that is free from all the that has purified and cleared all the negativities, all the obscurations, all the faults, and the state which has perfect and completed all the positive qualities, all the knowledge, and to have the highest wisdom and highest compassions and the greatest skillful means of benefiting and helping sentient beings. And so that result. And then in order to cultivate and actualize infinite loving kindness, compassion, and the bodhicitta mind, then there are some other practices that the practice of middle scope and the practice of small scope, which we need to engage into as a foundation, as a preliminary. And so that is the kind of the if I might summarize in contents, and so that can be contents in that its whole teachings into the practice of great scope, middle scope, and small scope. And so we'll start with the verse number 1. So that is the first one is making a homage, paying respect and vow to the Buddha Shakyamuni, the founder of the Dhamma. So here is I prostrate before you, the Buddha, the head of the Shakya clan. So of course Shakya is a particular lineage, and so Buddha was born in that particular lineage, so Shakya clan. And so of course when we pay homage to any enlightened beings, there are many different ways of paying homage. And here Lama Tsongkhapa is paying homage by recollecting the excellent qualities of the Buddha's body, the excellent quality of Buddha's speech, and excellent qualities of the Buddha's mind. And so here your enlightened body is born out of tens of millions of positive virtues and perfect accomplishment. So here, the Buddha's enlightened body, which is decorated by major or minor signs, that shows the major minor signs of enlightenment that you see in body are born not just by one cause and condition, but many cause and conditions. So when he said tens of millions, it doesn't necessarily mean tens of millions, it just means many of limitless cause and conditions. So to have each of those major and minor signs and mark, you need to create incredible amount of virtues and merit. And so that is in each of those major minor signs and marks has incredible functioning of benefiting other sentient beings. Even just by looking at that very body, that it can give you a kind of peace. Not only if we can see the body, Buddha himself But even nowadays, even when you look when you see his statues or image, a lot of people, just by looking at that, even non-Buddhist people, when they look at that, they say it gives them a lot of peace and calmness. And you can imagine when you actually really see Buddha's himself body. So it gives you inspirations, peace and calmness just by just looking at that. And your enlightened speech grant the wishes of limitless beings. So the Buddha's speech with the 60 melodies, qualities, grant the wishes of limitless all sentient beings. The sentient beings' wishes, temporary wishes, and ultimate wishes, and Buddha's speech, the enlightened speech, through his teachings and his, it gives us, the sentient beings, the way to create the cause and conditions to achieve our temporary and ultimate happiness. So through his speech, we learn about that, and we practice. Through practices, then we create the right cause and conditions to achieve temporary and ultimate happiness of oneself and others. And so that is how the speech grants all the wishes of limitless sentient beings. Your enlightened mind sees all knowable as they are. And so, saying the Buddha's enlightened mind is able to see the true truth, both conventional truth and ultimate truth, directly, simultaneously, at the same time, with the same consciousness, without any obscurations. So of course all the knowledgeable phenomena, or all the existing can be concluded in ultimate phenomena and conventional phenomena or relative phenomena. And the Buddha is able to, Buddha's enlightened mind is able to see that true truth simultaneously at the same time, directly. Or we can say the Buddha's enlightened mind possesses infinite, limitless loving kindness, compassion, infinite loving, limitless wisdom, and skillful means, the power and skillful means to guide and benefit sentient beings according to their individuals' predispositions, according to individuals' needs, according to individuals' level of mind, according to individuals' level of their karma. And so the Buddha has that ability, and that comes to his mind, enlightened mind. So basically this paying homage to the Buddha Shakyamuni. And then next is again paying homage, bowing, prostrating to the two bodhisattvas, Maitreya and Manjushri. I prostrate before you, Maitreya and the Manjushri. The Maitreya known as the future Buddha, Manjushri known as the Buddha of wisdom, Maitreya also the Buddha of loving kindness. Maitreya means loving kindness, and And of course, also they are also shown as bodhisattvas, especially when they are around the Shakyamuni. So here in among here that the supreme spiritual child of this peerless teacher. So here this peerless teacher referring to the Buddha Shakyamuni, and so they are like his spiritual children, main disciples. Assuming the responsibility to further the all Buddha's enlightened deeds. So as a bodhisattva, assuming the responsibility to clarify and to expand and to flourish and to share the Buddha's enlightened deeds through their incredible manifestations as a bodhisattva, in a different form, in a different realms. You support emanations to countless worlds. So not only our world, but also there are many worlds, and so manifesting in a different form, in a different world, in order to carry on the Buddha's enlightened deeds. So most of the teachings on the method path, such as loving kindness, compassion, the bodhicitta mind, from Buddha Shakyamuni pass to the Maitreya, and then Asanga and all others, lineage teachers and gurus. And most of the teachings on the wisdom path is from Buddha Shakyamuni, carried by the Manjushri and Bodhisattva Manjushri, and then Nagarjuna, and then all others lineage teachers, and so. And then the third. Prostrating, paying homage to the normally Nagarjuna in Asanga is known as Shinda Solche, like a pointer or charioteer which cleared the path. Okay, and also both of them has been prophesied by the Buddha in the sutras that he already mentioned in the such and such years. So one called Nagarjuna will come in this world, and he will clarify some of the teachings on the wisdom teachings that where certain sentient beings at that time disciples are unable to understand. He will clarify that, and then same in Asanga, that he will expand and clarify some of the method teachings which are not clear or cannot understood by some others, or in term of the tenets. Nagarjuna is the founder of the middle way school, Madhyamika, and then Asanga is known as the founders of the founder of the Mind Holy School, and coming from that also. So is I prostrate before your feet, Nagarjuna. The great Master Nagarjuna, and the Asanga, ornament of our southern continent. So they are known as, in Tibetan scriptures, sometimes you find the 6 ornament of this our old southern continent, and those, of course, Nagarjuna and Asanga are 2 of the main among those 6 who have contributed a lot to the Buddha's teachings. And in recent time, His Holiness Dalai Lama has composed a prayer to the 17 Pandit of great Indian Pandit of Nalanda traditions. And of course, all 6 ornaments are included there, but also others who are not included in 6, but who have who have contributed so much through their writings and so forth for more development of the Buddha Dharma. And so, highly famed throughout the 3 realms, you have commented on the most difficult to fathom, the mother of the Buddha, the perfection of wisdom, according to exactly what was intended. So of course, all those teachings Buddha already gave, and you can find in sutras, but sometimes for certain individuals, certain disciples, just by reading some of those sutras, you cannot grasp the whole teaching purely. And so, unless there is some more clarifications. And so, therefore, such as Nagarjuna, Asanga, and those are the great masters who clarified those further. At the Buddha's time, those disciples who were listening to his teachings, probably they didn't need any clarification. With that, they were able to understand that. And those who were not able to understand, he gave clarifications in certain other sutras. But as the time goes by, due to our karma, obscurations, then we are unable to understand without relying on some commentary. Just by relying on sutra itself, sometimes we cannot really understand the full meaning of that. And so therefore, those later masters try to clarify it and without commentaries for us to understand. And so those and then also the next is also, so it is paying homage and respect to those lineage teachers and gurus. And also with that we know how the teachings were passed. So it gives you a little bit of histories of the teachings coming from Buddha Shakyamuni to Maitreya and Manjushri, and from Manjushri to Nagarjuna, Maitreya to Asanga, like that. And then I bow to Divamkara, Adisha, holder of treasure of instructions. As seen in your lamp to the path of enlightenment. And so again, and Adisha is the one who revived Buddhism in Tibet around 10-11 centuries. Buddhism came to Tibet around 7-8 centuries, and there was it was flourished at some time, but then during the King Langdama, and afterwards, it started to King Langdama during his time. He was not very supportive of this new spiritual or religious, and so he was distracted. So he destroyed, and so over the time, then it declined, and with the time, then it got polluted and diluted, and misunderstood. And so then again, Adisha Dipankara came at that time, and again he revived and renewed to its purity. And so and he played very strong instrumental in reviving the Buddhism in Tibet to its purity. And of course, among many of his writings, one of them is the Lamp to the Path, the Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, Lam Rim. And that is the basis for Lama Tsongkhapa to write his Lam Rim, Chemo, and the middle, the great Lam Rim, middle and small. So the one of the main root texts as which is basis that he's writing is this Adisha's Lamp of the Path. So that is all the complete, unmistaken point concerning the path of profound view, the wisdom, and the vast actions, the method of loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, transmit the intake from those two great forerunners can be included within. So Adisha received all the complete and all the teachings that was passed. The forerunners here referring to Nagarjuna and Asanga. And so from all the wisdom teachings that was passed through Nagarjuna, of course beginning from the Buddha Shakyamuni, and then later he received from Rigpe Kujuk, another great master from Rigpe Kujuk. And then all the method, loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, he received from another great Lama, Lama Selingpa from Indonesia. And he spent there for 12 years, traveled to Indonesia from India by boat, and then for 13 months in those times. And then he studied under him, and he practiced under him, and so he got all the teachings, instruction on that was passed through Asanga. And so then he got all the teaching of both the profound vast wisdom and the profound view of the wisdom and the vast action, loving kindness, compassion from those. And then he passed to his disciples in India and Tibet, and also through his writings. So then that's being and then respect. Then again, paying homage and vows and to all other lineage gurus that Lama Tsongkhapa did not mention here by name, but he's paying homage to all the previous lineage teachers and gurus that have kept the teachings alive and passed one after another, and until his root gurus, his teacher from whom he received directly those teachings. Especially I prostrated before my spiritual masters, so all the lineage masters of these teachings. You are the eyes allowing us to behold all infinite scriptural pronouncements. So those, our teachers, our spiritual master, our teachers, is like the eyes which allowed us to see and understand and to be able to integrate in our practice of all this infinite meaning of all those teachings. And those teachings, the best fort for those of good fortune to cross to liberation, and those teachings are given for those fortunate ones due to their previous karma and imprint who wish to free themselves from the samsara and the delusions, and who wish to achieve lasting happiness of free liberations. And so whatever practice that we are able to do at the moment, able to practice, whatever little understanding that we have about the Dharma is due to our teachers, and so therefore they are like the eyes. And you make everything clear to your skillful deeds, which are moved by the intense loving concerns. And so those some of the teachings that we are not so, which we are unable to understand by ourselves without relying on some commentary, without relying on some explanation from our teachers, through the skillful meanings, and the teacher is able to clarify those, and out of great compassion, in order to help, in order to benefit us, out of great love, compassion. And so with that, then paying homage to all the lineage gurus. And so then, so up to here is the homage, and so here now he is promised to compose the teachings, and the promising to compose and the writings. The stages of path to enlightenment have been transmitted intact by those who have followed in order, both from Nagarjuna and Asanga. So most of the wisdom teaching from mainly from Nagarjuna, and the method part mainly from Asanga. Those crowning jewel of all erudite, the masters of our southern continent. So Nagarjuna and Asangas are like the crowning jewels for clarifying the teachings of the Buddhas. And the banner of whose fame stand out above the masses. And so they are the most respected and known masters among the many masters of the great Nalanda traditions and masters. There have been thousands and thousands of great Indian pandit and masters and practitioners and scholars. Among them, they stood like their fame stood out. And as following those states can fulfill every desirable ebb of all nines kind of beings. So basically it's saying this when we engage, when we practice the stages of the path, the Lam Rim, the stages of the path, these teachings and this practice can fulfill all desirable temporary and ultimate desire, or temporary and ultimate wishes and of all sentient beings. Temporary happiness of this life, future lives in higher rebirth, and ultimate happiness of liberations or wishes of liberation and fully enlightened state. They are a power granting king of precious instructions. So the Lam Rim, his teachings, is like the king who has the power to grant help to the subjects, the peoples. In the same way, this has is like, and we can grant all the instructions, how to achieve our own happiness and happiness of others, how to achieve temporary and ultimate happiness. Because they collect the stream of thousands of excellent classes. And in this, it's not just only one piece of teaching, but it collects all the teachings. So it's a complete teachings and complete practice. Some of the teachings, some of the practice you find on karma. Some of teaching just on karma. Some of the teaching practice you find on loving kindness, compassion. Some of teaching you find teaching and practice on wisdom, emptiness, and not necessarily loving kindness. But here he is saying this Lam Rim composes of all those teachings of that. And they are indeed an ocean of illustrious correct explanations. So this is like the oceans which gathers all the different rivers and waters, all the different sources of water from different sources of river and stream and so forth. In the same way, the Lam Rim is like that, the oceans where all the teachings have been contents, summarized into that, all the teachings of all the sutras. Even in just a Tibetan translation, there are more than 100-volume sutras. Among the Indian masters' translations that have been translated in Tibetan, there are more than 200 volumes. So much teachings. All these teachings, there's so much there in 84,000 volumes. If you summarize contents, then it summarizes contents in all this in this Lam Rim. And unmistaken correct explanations of the Buddha's teachings. So then on the 7th he explained about the excellent qualities of the Lam Rim, the stage of the path, these particular teachings, and the excellent qualities or attributes of that. These teachings made it easy to understand how there is nothing contradictory in all Buddha's teachings. So, by relying on the Lam Rim, that we understand all the Buddha's teachings are directly or indirectly given and taught to the disciples, or maybe the wording. All the Buddha's teachings are given and taught to the disciples in order to lead the disciples, the sentient beings, directly or indirectly towards the their own full potential, the fully enlightened state, fully awakened state. Those of the teaching of great scope of the Bodhisattva's practices, Mahayana practices and teachings were given directly to achieve that. Some of others' teachings were given to those disciples directly to lead them to liberation, nirvana, but indirectly from there to guide them to a fully enlightened state. Because they were not ready for those teachings at this point, so they were given the teachings which they were ready at the moment. But indirectly, with that teachings, once they practice and when they get that, and when they are ready, then they will be guided towards enlightenment. So, with Lam Rim, then we understand all those different teachings of categories that he gave. The teachings that he gave to Bodhisattvas, the teaching that he gave to solitary realizers, hearers, all those different teachings, where some of them are directly guiding to a fully enlightened, some of them indirectly guiding to the same. And so we know all those teachings are a path to achieve our highest potential fully enlightened. So there is no contradiction in that. Through this Lam Rim we understand. And then another qualities through this Lam Rim teaching then makes every scriptural pronouncement without exception down on our mind as a personal instructions. So when we study and learn the Lam Rim, then we begin to understand all those different sutras, all those different commentaries by those great Indian masters, and all them, they all are personal instructions. Instead of differentiating, this practice are for philosophy, this practice are for practice instructions. Sometimes we might differentiate, these are philosophical, we don't need it because it's nothing to do with practice. And we think, this is a personal instruction for practice. We could have that kind of wrong view, misunderstanding, thinking like the writing of Nagarjuna's, think, these are just a philosophy. And I'm more interested in practice, so therefore that is not something I need to study and learn. So we could have that kind of misunderstanding, misconceptions. But through this Lam Rim, then we begin to understand all this. They all are teachings, personal instructions to transform our mind, to transform our heart. They all are instructions to overcome the defilement, the delusions, and to increase and improve the positive, constructive emotions such as loving kindness, compassion, wisdom, tolerance, patience, and so forth. And so therefore, then we see everything as instructions. They make it easy to discover what the Buddha intended to. And another quality is that even though all those teachings, all these sutra and commentary by great Indian master, even though they all are instructions to transform our mind, but sometimes some of those teachings might not be easy for us to really understand how they are a method to transform our mind, isn't it? Sometimes it seems like it's too philosophical, and we get lost into that, and we are unable to really see how that teachings, that particular teachings, relate with our practice in transforming our mind. But by relying on Lam Rim teaching, then it makes it more easier to understand how those philosophical, which we feel philosophical teachings, how they are related with transforming our mind. So a lot of those teachings, then we begin to understand they are just an extension of the Lam Rim teachings. It's more detailed and more extensions of same Lam Rim teachings. So we know all those different teachings contains within this particular practice, within these particular teachings in that way. So it make us easy to take all these teachings on the path and as instructions. So that is another where was that? Yeah. And then protect you as well from abyss of the great error. And so with Lam Rim, as we study and learn about Lam Rim, then it helps us to say, have this wrong misconceptions, seeing some of those teachings are for practice, and some of those teachings are not for a practice, it's just for a debate or for a philosophy or something, nothing to do with practice. So then we started have we can have a negative thoughts towards certain teachings, negative thoughts towards certain teachings. Also, we might say, oh, some of those practice are something a bodhisattva practice, so therefore we should practice some of those practice because they are practice for lower scope or middle scope. Therefore, we don't need to practice. We can, and again, kind of judging on the basis of that. Again, we can create negative karma. And saying this is supreme and that is not supreme, and like that, again, discriminating, judging that, again, we create negative karma. But through studying and learning the Lam Rim, then we begin to see all of them are personal instructions, and all of them are taught and means the way to guide us towards the fully enlightened state. So we started to have respect for all those teachings. Then we started to have all the teachings, all the path. And by doing, when we have a respect for all those teachings and all those different paths and teachings, then we don't create a negative karma. And so it protects us from that kind of creating that kind of negative karma and that kind of mistakes. Because of these four benefits which I just explained, what discriminated person among the master of India and Tibet would not have his and her mind be completely enraptured by those stages of path. Arranged according to the three level of motivations. So three level of the motivations, of small scope, middle scope, and great scope. So someone, if we know, if we understand, if we study and learn and understand all these excellent qualities and benefit, then he's saying, who wouldn't be inspired? Who wouldn't be inspired to study, learn, and practice that? The supreme instruction to which many fortunate have devoted themselves. And so this is the instruction that in the past, or many of the previous meditators, practitioners have relied on these teachings and instructions to work with their mind and to transform their mind. And then he explained more the benefit of studying, learning, and practicing the Lam Rim, the stages of path. Although there is much merit to be gained from reciting or hearing, even once this manner of text, of course, Lama Tsongkhapa referring to the light of Lamb of the Path by Adisha, but also this, the commentary, the Lam Rim itself, that include essential point of all scriptural pronouncements. So in this Lamb of the Path, or all the Lam Rim, even this, the short Lam Rim, even though it is very short in word, but it contains all the essential point of all the sutras and all the commentaries of the past. And there are certain to amass even greater wave of beneficial collections of the merit and wisdom from actually teaching and studying the sacred Dharma. Therefore, you should consider the point for doing this properly. So he's explaining that in many of the sutras, they explain, you see in many of the sutras, and also many Indian commentary, they explain about the incredible benefit of reciting Heart Sutra or the Wisdom of Perfection and many others sutras and texts, and that incredible merit that one collects by reciting, hearing it, writing it, contemplating on it, and so forth. There is, it has explained that, and so Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, if that is the case, then definitely this teaching, the stages of the path, which contains all the essential points of the heart of all the sutra and all the commentary in this, if we recite, if we listen, if we write, if we discuss, definitely we create incredible benefit and merit and positive energy, karma, virtues. But of course, not only that, if we started to study that, reflecting, contemplating on that, the teachings, and then not only teachings, then of course, if you started to really study and reflect, contemplate, then definitely you are going to accumulate even more virtues, even more merit. That. And if you practice, definitely, not only you are going to create more virtues, more merit, more positive karma, definitely you will begin to see transformation in your heart, in your mind. Definitely you will begin to see your mind being more softening, more warm, and more compassion, and more wise, more wisdom, and so forth. And so therefore, and of course, if we practice, and if we practice correctly, properly, there's no doubt those benefits. And so from here, then the actual body of the teaching really starts from here. So until here is kind of like a little bit like more kind of like preliminary. And from here is the actual, the main actual body of the scripture starts. And in this Lam Rim, then it starts with relying correctly, properly to the spiritual teachers or masters, and then encouraging to by recognizing and understanding precious human life, then taking how to take essence from our life, make our life meaningful, beneficial, and then encouraging, and then how to make our life meaningful and beneficial, and that is explained in the term of how we can make our life meaningful, beneficial, by engaging in the practice of middle scope, small scope, middle scope, and great scope, and then that teachings on that comes. And so then starting with the first, how to rely correctly and properly in relation with the spiritual masters or gurus, teachers. You should see that the root cause of excellently propitious for as great as mass of good fortunes are possible for this and future life in proper devotion to thought and action to your sublime teacher who show you the path to enlightenment. And thus, you should please your teacher by offering your practice of exactly what he or she says, which you would not forsake even at the cost of your life. I, the yogi, have practiced just that. So that's Lama Tsongkhapa saying. And then advising you who also seek liberations, please cultivate yourself in the same way. So here he explained about how to rely on the spiritual gurus correctly, properly, and in that term, then how to rely in terms of thoughts and actions, and so properly relying on the correctly and properly relying on the guru or teacher is the cause of all the realizations that will be explained, all the realizations on the Lam Rim, all the realizations which are the source of happiness of this life and future, and happiness of liberation, fully enlightened state. So that is the very root of all the realizations. And so therefore, properly relying become crucial. And so first is of course, for someone to study and learn, I don't think it is necessary to take someone as teachers or guru in order to learn from someone. But of course, when someone is very serious in their path and they really want to progress, and if they are really serious in their practice, then definitely they have to find qualified teachers, and then having find a qualified teachers, then relying properly on that. And I won't go in the details of, but in the materials ornament of sutras, he explained the 10 qualities of a qualified spiritual teacher or guru, who is subdued by their moral discipline, or someone who has been subdued by their practice of moral discipline or ethical discipline, and whose mind has been pacified by the certain level of concentrations, and very pacified by the understanding, the wisdom, understanding the selflessness of the persons, with the wisdom, and someone who has more knowledge than oneself in concerning this particular practice that you are studying, learning. Someone who has a perseverance in their practice and virtues, and helping the disciples, and someone who is rich in their own studies and scriptures understandings. Someone who is compassionate. Someone who has the wisdom realizing the emptiness of understanding of emptiness, who is skillful in presenting the teachings, Dharma, who is skillful in presenting Dharma according to the need of according to the predisposition or understanding of the disciple. And someone who is compassionate, and someone who has patience, who doesn't give up, and who doesn't become impatient when they have to explain again and again for some disciples, because they couldn't understand by explaining 1-2 times. So when you have to explain them with many different ways and many different, because they couldn't answer. So someone who had that kind of patience, and that. So these are some of the 10 qualities that is described as the qualities for an authentic, qualified teacher's guru. And so, on the basis of investigating whether someone has those qualities or not, and then if you over the time investigation analysis, if you find he or she has those qualifications, and you feel if you feel connected and feel ready to take them as teachers and guru, then of course from your heart, then you can take them as your guru and teachers. And then having taken them as a guru and teacher, then how to rely properly and devote yourself. And then that we do in terms of thoughts and action. In terms of thought, then trying to cultivate as much faith, as much as trust, as much as convictions, as much as faith, devotion as much as possible by reflecting, contemplating on all the positive quality that you observe, that you see, that you hear about their qualities in terms of the practice of moral discipline, practice of concentration, practice of wisdom, the practice of loving kindness, compassion, and the practice of six perfection, and so forth, whatever positive good qualities that you hear about them, that you see yourself, that you observe yourself. The more you reflect, the more you contemplate, the more your trust, devotions arises, and the more that arises, the more your mind becomes more open, spacious. The more your mind is open and spacious, the more you receive from their teachings and their inspirations. The less our mind is open, the more our mind is closed, then we receive less. Not only with not only with our spiritual teachers and guru, but I think that's the same with everyone. Everything, with your parent as a child. The more trust you have to your parent, when they give you some kind of advice, you are able to hear it properly and receive it. Same with your other teachers as well, friends as well. But if your mind is not open to them, if your mind is closed, then even they give you a great advice, suggestion, opinion, you can't hear it properly because your mind is not open. So even they give a great advice, suggestion, you don't really hear it properly and you can't receive it. And so that is what this practice helps us to open our mind, be more spacious, and that openness, that spaciousness allow us to receive much more, and the teaching become much more beneficial, started to sink in our mind. Instead of being a dry, sometimes teachings, even though teachings are great, still we can feel it is almost like dry. Somehow it doesn't sink inside. It's elegant, it's beautiful, but something doesn't sink inside. In some other time, the teaching might not be so elegant in terms of presentation itself, but something touch your heart, sinks in yourself, and you start a transformation, and that very much depend on how open and spacious our mind is in that. And so that helps us to that. And then trying to overcome and not to have any negative thoughts, and as much as possible. And trying to reduce and trying to make sure that that we don't arises of any bad and negative thoughts, because that bad and negative thoughts become again obstacles for that. And then remembering their kindness, recollecting their kindness and reflecting on that, and then trying to generate a strong respect for that. And so again, whatever we have, little bit of understanding that we might have about Dharma, if we do have any understanding of Dharma, it comes through our teachers, our gurus. Without them teaching us by ourselves, we don't have that ability to understand without depending on them. And so it's through their kindness, their teachings, their inspirations, their examples, that we are starting whatever small understanding, very little understanding we might have at the moment is because of them. And not only that, not only a little bit of understanding, but if we have started to integrate, apply in our everyday life and practice, if we are able to practice any form of practice, any level, again, is because of our gurus, their teachings, their inspirations, their advice, their instructions, that we have been able to not only understand a little bit, but now we have started to practice and put into the practice. And not only with that practice, with over the time with the practice, if there is any transformation in our life, maybe we are starting to become a little bit less angry than we used to be. Maybe if we are able to let it go whenever we have some kind of resentment without holding for a long time. Or maybe we have become less attached to certain things. Or maybe we have changed certain of our behavior, our certain attitude towards some unhealthy and unbeneficial attitude and behavior. And maybe if we have become a little bit more compassionate, a little bit more understanding, if there is any kind of those kind of transformation that's happened, again, is those transformations happens because of our practice. And those practice, we are able to engage in practice because of our teachers, our gurus' teachings, inspiration, example, and their encouragement. And so therefore, for individually, they are more kind than even the Buddha and Bodhisattvas. Even the Buddha is someone who is free from all the faults, no mistake, no faults, someone full of infinite love, compassion, and wisdom, and all the positive, excellent qualities. But due to our karma, we have not met the Buddha Shakyamuni himself. That's why we are still here in samsara. Probably we have not met all of those great Indian masters, Nagarjuna, Asanga, Baba Viga, Shantideva, and all those. Neither we have met and Lama Adishas, and neither we have been able to meet all the other great masters that appear in Tibet and other places over, and not being able to receive the nectar, the teachings, and nectar of the teachings, and not being able to apply those teachings. But due to certain karma and imprint, this time we are able to meet this particular teachers and gurus, and due to that we are able to understand the teachings a little bit. We are able to understand a little bit of the teaching of those great Indian masters, commentaries. We are able to understand a little bit of meaning of the Buddha's sutras, and then we are able to see some small changes and transformations. And it is all due to our Guru. If we have not met the Guru, we might not be in the same situation that we are now in terms of our spiritual path. And from that, when we reflect, contemplate, then we feel kindness of them for giving us the eye, like to a blind, total ignorance about the Dharma, and through their teaching that we are started to have some, even the very little understanding of it, and practice, even if it is just small, it's because of them. So as you reflect and contemplate more and more of that, then we started to feel their kindness, and we started to feel more close. And with that feeling of kindness and closeness and connections, we started our respect for them increases. And with the increase of our respect, again it opens our heart, our mind even more. And by opening that our heart and mind, then we are able to receive more from them. And by receiving more from them, then we are able to make more progress in our path. So, relying properly with our thoughts, and then as it said here, relying in terms of actions, trying to offer service, offerings, and particularly by repaying the kindness, repaying their kindness by applying their teachings, instruction into the practice. And that is the best form and highest form and supreme form of repaying the kindness. It's put into the practice to all the teaching and instructions and advice they give. And that is the best way to please the Guru, that is the best way to please the Buddhas, that is the best way to please the Bodhisattvas. And that is also the best way to please yourself as well, when you are able to apply those teachings, and when you are begin to see some transformations, positive transformation in your life. So here Lama Tsongkhapa is saying that he did himself that, and he advised us to follow that. Okay. So I think it's already 9. Is this 9? Yeah.
That clock is broken. That clock is broken.
Yeah. So if there is question, I can take 1 or 2 questions from today's talk. Is there any questions?
question.
Yes, please.
So, if your guru is far away, do we still establish some sort of connection if the guru is not physically present?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And if so, how that happens? How does that happen?
Of course, if there is a possibility of communicating them from far away with phone, emails, for advice, instruction, so on, that would be great. But if we don't have even that access, then we try to communicate from heart to heart. And in your practice, in your prayers, you can actually ask whatever doubt or whatever caution you might have, and sometimes you can get the answer in your meditation, in your practice, and through the blessing of the Guru, then you can get some advice or some instructions or some answer to that. And so, but whether you get the answer immediately or not, obviously that we are able to notice or not, but still if we try to keep them in our heart and try to reflect the positive qualities of them and kindness of them in that way, then again, even when you are not in physical, when you read their books or their texts, it will have more effect on you. If you listen to their teaching, it will have more effect on you. And so it will still have same kind of effect to a certain level to make your mind more open and spacious, so that when you read their books, their teachings, when you listen to them, it has more effect in your heart of transformations. And so therefore it could definitely I think that is the key. That is the thing. We can't have access to the teachers all the time. For example, His Holiness Dalai Lama is one of my root guru, my main root guru. I don't have direct access to him at all, but and also same with many of my other teachers as well. Some of them I have a little more access than others. Some of them I don't have direct access to them too. But again, as I said, the more faith you have, more respect you have with them, then any advice they give become very powerful, touch your heart. Any teaching they give, it really sinks, goes in your heart instead of going from your ear to ear. You hear from here and then it goes away there, blow away there. It doesn't sink inside. But when you have that kind of feeling, then it starts to sink in, It doesn't go out but sinks, and that is our experience. At least that is my experience. The more stronger faith I have, more stronger respect I have, the more I'm able to get in sync more of their teachings. But even the teachers is great. Great teachers, but if I don't have the same kind of feelings, my mind is not open to that person, so I don't have same kind of faith, same kind of devotion, then that teaching somehow doesn't really sink, and it doesn't really hit my mind, my heart, and so I see the differences in that, and so I think that is what this does. Yeah. So then we will do the dedications, okay? So due to all the virtues that we have created in the past, which we will be creating in the future, having created now together, may the Dharma flourish and benefit countless sentient beings. And due to that, may His Holiness Dalai Lama, Jari Lama Soba Rinpoche, and all others great holy beings, gurus, have long, healthy life. All their noble deeds, activities, and wishes be fulfilled. And may we always please them by applying their advices and teaching in our practices. And may all the sentient beings who are having obstacles, whatever those obstacles, may they be free from all the obstacles. May all sentient beings who are not feeling well, may they recover from their sickness as quick as possible and have healthy life. May all sentient beings who have died, wherever they are now, may they be free from all the suffering, cause of suffering, fears, have perfect human rebirth, meet the Dharma, actualize the Dharma, and achieve enlightened state in that lifetime. And may each and every sentient being be able to actualize and fully develop the loving kindness, compassion, the bodhicitta mind, and wisdom realizing the emptiness. And those who have already actualized, not to diminish but increase more and more. Gyawadi nyoto da lama sangye do ne do wa chi kya ma le pa te sa la kwe pa la sho chan cho sen cho ren po che ma ke pa nang ke gyu chi ke wa nyam ba me ba yang kong le kong do pe wa sho kare ra we ko we shin gang de pen dang de wa ma le chung we ne che re sen wa ten zen ja zo yi sha pe se te pa tu ten gyu chi tu zu chang xin chang kun jia we ten zin jong pe we kun su do ko ro zu cho song ku we le ma tu du pa dang so du je kun du sha ten shu. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.